From years of anxiety to warrior and mentor, Bradley Robinson created the Anxiety Project to help you end your anxiety naturally. Let's mold the new you and let's end anxiety together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Anxiety Project podcast. Welcome to episode 328. I'm Brad Robinson. Today, I want to dive into the biggest addiction that I've contended with going through my anxiety recovery, something that I had to acknowledge and really contend with. And this is something I talk to a lot of young men about. It's pornography and masturbation, going a week without it, a month, and then in my case, going 6 years without pornography that possessed me since I was about 14 and 15 years old, which is around the common age for a lot of young men. And it lasted until I was about 27. And it's no joke. It's something really difficult. It possesses the young mind, and I'm going to talk about why and why I got into it, why it was a challenge for me, and also the circuitry behind addiction and really my experiences around recovery, because it wasn't a linear smooth road to happiness and fulfillment and meaning. It was not that at all. What it was this internal battle, because a part of me wanted to do it and I couldn't control that part at times. And this other part was this internal judgmental character that was urging me to quit because of this shame and the guilt associated with that inner voice. Now, when I started to masturbate, I remember it's so clear in my head, this time in my life where I was starting to watch pornography on the laptop, and I realized that there was this obvious immediate guilt associated with it. And I had to Google, is it okay to watch pornography? Because in my head, there was something devious. It's something that's very intimate. You don't want to talk about this with your folks. You know that it's mischievous. I knew it was, you know, it was like this naughty thing to do. And so I Googled it and it said it was okay. Okay, well, that's fantastic. Gave me the all clear. It's sort of like, the doctor giving you the thumbs up. In later in my life, realizing that the doctor is not someone you should put 100% of your trust in, nor Google, right? So that's the thing, is I put all my trust into Google rather than my conscience. And over time, what happens is when you what would you say, subdue that voice that's telling you no, you should probably not do it, the guilt and the shame, when you activate high dopaminergic circuitry over this other voice, internal voice within you, the high pleasure seeking circuitry wins, and the voice gets softer and softer and softer until it's non-existent, because now you've built up this new habit where you've now come to this belief that this is what's good for you because it's providing you with something. What is it providing you with? What it was providing me with: pleasure, satisfaction, but not really. Satisfaction seems like it, but not really. And it was providing me with distraction. It was providing me with an outlet rather than to talk to the real cute girl at school. I was able to have access to an unlimited amount at my fingertips. And what's interesting is that no other male, no other king in history had access to this many naked women. So it's like we're just coming now recently to realize how preposterous this act really is, to go online and to watch an endless array of people engaging in the most sacred act you can engage in, right? The bringing forth of new life, but it's not that. It's engaging in an act that facilitates the me, the self, the the desire, the lust, the desire, the lust, the self satisfaction, because you're using these images as a way to release something that is deep, that is beyond our understanding, beyond my understanding. And now, being 6 years clean, I realize that the urges come more and more when I am, in fact, not connecting with my wife, not connecting, not spending quality time with her, not being intimate with her. And that's the thing, is we're all we're all we were ignoring that, and men are, mostly men, that I see, is the, what would you say, the puppet of this, well, crazy and, well, hard to beat desirous force. So for me now, when I stripped pornography and masturbation away, I substituted for something that is more sustainable across time. Now, what does that mean? What's more sustainable? What's the bread of life that Jesus referred to his teachings as? And what that means is, well, something that's rigorous, exercise, community, giving back, connection, building on trust in relationships, and meditation, faith in a higher power. And I think that is 100% true. I was a Christian long before I even knew I was Christian, right? I never put a label to it, because what I mean by that is, I had to have faith in order to recover from pornography addiction, because I had to say, well, look, I have a problem. I had to confess, right? I had to confess to myself that, hey, yeah, this is an issue for me. And I had to look towards something higher, an aim, a spirit. So, what's that spirit? The spirit of me, uh, not to be a slave to this tyrannical force within me. And I knew it was tyrannical because once I started to go a day or two without it and then relapse, I realized, okay, well, this thing is beyond me. And you have to give yourself up, right? That you can't do it alone. And that's what it means to have faith. You can't do it alone. There has to be something higher. God is that spirit who you could be, right? And it's that judgmental voice. That's what I believe God is. It's the judgmental voice that we ignore when we engage in self pursuits. So the voice became highly judgmental, especially when I started to watch other young men talk about nofap. I remember I stumbled upon this video back when I was 27 ish, and this man, he looked to be my age, young guy, right? And he was talking about how he went 500 days on nofap. And I thought, I just laughed, like the egoic part of me, the part that's so comfortable in habit, the part that believes that this habit is useful and true to myself because it's a part of my identity, right? What you pay attention to the most and engage in every single day determines your values, right? I valued this. So when I came across somebody who he abandoned the habit altogether, I was like, oh my God, my ego was like, oh, like, who is this guy? And I started to laugh and I was like, this guy is a fool. And, and then, but it haunted me. It was a seed. I always remembered that moment. It was a seed. I laughed and I mocked him, but something, the internal voice, God was saying, there's something to that man. There's something to what he's doing. And it haunted me. And the reason why it haunted me is because I knew from the beginning that this act was iffy. Like this shouldn't be true. walked down. This road shouldn't be walked down. And along the whole journey over this decade of using, I noticed that I was always yearning for it. That's one of the big eye-opening things for me, is that I never fully felt satisfied. Like I finally made it across the finish line, you know, because I was pursuing dead end aims. So things that weren't progressing my skills, things that were hindering me from social interaction because I was highly socially anxious. I was avoiding work and responsibilities. And so I knew that this thing is not good for me because of those things, because when I would engage in it, I wasted time, because this is not something that is long term, that is going to benefit me and the community around me and the world at large. And it's not satisfying my soul because I feel a hollowness, that I'm just at the end of it, at the end of meaningless sex or meaningless fapping. I'm just staring out the window. I'm looking and I'm just hollow. I'm hollow, that it wasn't rewarding, because hard work is at the end of it rewarding. This isn't hard work. This isn't satisfying work. This is very easy. It's the easy road. It's like getting a box of donuts. It's easy. Your sugary, yearnings play a huge, part in that. It takes over you, and you buy a box of donuts and you give in to this inner satanic, I guess you can say, kind of force. And at the end of it all, you feel lethargic. You feel overly depressed and anxious because, this thing told you to buy a box of donuts, but the donuts itself contains what? Glucose, insane amount of carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. It's not even like good flour. It's like bleached flour with terrible, vegetable oil. And have you ever looked at a cake from Costco, the ingredients? I looked at it once and I couldn't believe it. There was nothing in it that said this is real food. It was like all artificial ingredients. So think about that. The mind forces you into something like that, and you get it, and it's all artificial, and it makes your body less functionable. It makes you more anxious, depressed, fat, and you feel unmotivated, definitely, because now you just want to fall asleep. And so you wasted time, and you're just compounding on the negatives, right? That's holding you back from moving forward in life, to attaining goals, to just moving, right? Like you can't move anywhere if there's no goals. So I feel like, well, that's a big thing to point out, is the human condition is we're aiming creatures. If we don't have anywhere to aim, especially if we're aiming low, towards like a box of donuts, that's immediate. That's going to fulfill us right away. And then we're going to feel a yearning because we just got it, right? Now what? The mind goes, now what? Now what? And so that's the same thing. Like when you go to university, your goals are everywhere. Your exams, your classes, your projects. And at the end of it, you graduate and there's this big high. You did it. And at the end of that, you're out. So now where's your next goal? It's like a lot of kids get depressed. Now you're at Starbucks working 9 to 5, and you're like, oh my God, you're feeling so depressed and anxious. That's because you attained this big goal. You got this huge dopaminergic kick. And now, then what? You have to aim for another goal, but it has to be a goal that's out into, like, you're fishing far out into the future, and it's out there. And now you have all of these micro steps along your way to get to that goal. And so all of these micro steps are dopaminergic. You study 2 hours a day, you go to the gym, you do this, you wash your car, you go to get some groceries, you clean up the apartment, goal, like attaining. Hard work pays off because you see results, you see cleanliness, you see you lose weight, or you're gaining muscle mass, or you're gaining knowledge, you're consuming knowledge. And you see yourself moving towards something good. And a lot of people move towards something bad. And pornography for me was the something bad, right? It didn't move me much, right? I attained it and it's like I'm in the same place. That's the Ouroboros, the dragon that eats its own tail. That's chaos, right? You consume it because you want it, and then you're in the same place, and nothing has changed around you. It's immediate. It's very short-lived. You need something sustainable. So that was this big realization I had, and you have to really start out this journey with a humility, because this thing is beyond you. You don't have control over this thing. You have to acknowledge it. You have to talk to yourself. Why is this a problem? Why am I so overly obsessed? How did this all begin? How do I feel after doing it? And you have to awaken to this, and then you have to challenge yourself to go 1 or 2 days without it. And the thing that Dr. Anna Lemke said that I love her work. I highly recommend that you read her book, Dopamine Nation. It's insanely important if you want to successfully battle an addiction. She said that it'll take a month for you to come back down to a homeostasis state, because you're going to go through a withdrawal period. That's because you've been hitting off this pleasure signal over and over and over again. So what happens is the pleasure in the brain is tilted upwards. It's just, you're just pleasure, and your tolerance to pleasure greatly increases. And then so once you stop doing the pleasure, this other side of the seesaw comes up, which is pain. Pleasure and pain are co-located in the brain. Whoa. So when you don't get the pleasure, when you don't get access to the cocaine, the pain starts to go up, the irritability, the restlessness, the yearning, the pain. Addiction starts with pain and ends with pain. It ends with pain. So when you face the pain and you decide to move beyond the pain, that's when the brain can start to relax and come back down to a homeostasis state. Whew. Yeah, that is pretty insane. And it takes about a month for that to happen. So you're going to have to challenge yourself and go a day, 2 days, and then eventually get to that month where, you ride the wave of the pain, but you add something else to help counteract that pain. For me, I really found going outside the house useful, because that was a trigger for me. Staying at home, or if I was alone, would trigger this urge to watch. So I would leave the house, go to a coffee shop, spend hours there reading a book, go to the library, go for walks, go for hikes, and just what I would do is do the opposite of what your old self does. You have a laptop in your room, you have a computer set up, you got to move that out of there. You got to put blocks on certain sites, and you have to make a plan. You have to envision, what would a day be like without using this thing? What am I going to do with my time? That's insanely important. And hopefully you do something that gets you feeling more connected with yourself. And that's the big thing to understand, is a lot of people who are fighting addictions, they're disconnected from themselves. They don't know who they are. They're not familiar with themselves. They're not familiar with discomfort and what that is. Because like me, I've just been feeding that discomfort. Oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Junk food, pornography, weed, distractions. And then what? And then here you are, you're left fat, depressed, anxious, and dependent on material means to numb, soothe, and distract you from this internal concern. Because when I would strip the distractions away, the pornography away, what was left there was this open wound. It was throbbing. It was tender. I'm like, oh my God, what is that thing? What do you want? I want pornography. But like, okay, I know you want that because you've been conditioned to want it. But now that I'm not allowing you to watch pornography, what do you want? Oh yeah, I'm just lonely. Oh, you're lonely. Whew, that's a hell of a realization. Oh, you want connection. You want a relationship. Oh God, right? Oh, you need something to alleviate the stress. You need something to decompress. Oh, I get it. Okay, well, and then that's where I recommend the hiking, the connection, in finding a real partner. It's like the Peter Pan story. Peter Pan, this story blew me away because I saw myself in Peter Pan. I'm like, I don't want to be like that. As soon as I saw the archetype, I was like, ugh, stay away from me, as much as possible. So Peter Pan is this, he looks fantastic. He's like the Andrew Tate, right? Like he's the king of the Lost Boys. I'd rather be king than be a loser. Sure, that is appealing. At least you're king of something, right? At least you have some sort of meaning. But at the end of the day, you're king of the Lost Boys. Is that something you should be really proud of? It's like Malfoy being the leader of Crabbe and Goyle, right? It's like these overweight, schlubby, no good delinquents. That's nothing to be proud of at all. Like, damn, man. So that's the Cain archetype as well. So Peter Pan is king of the Lost Boys, and he comes into contact with Wendy, who's a real woman, because Peter Pan is, well, worshiping, idolizing, fantasizing over this make-believe fairy that's flickering around his head. And that's like the pornographic images flickering around your head, right? The provocative Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is provocative and not real and a figment of his imagination. A real woman is like wants children, wants you to get your act together. It's like Nala in Lion King. She kind of slaps him away from his dopey, idiotic friends, because what lion sits around all day eating bugs and smiling and, doing cartwheels in the woods with a meerkat and whatever the other one is, hog, I think. And so what woman finds that really attractive? A lot of men nowadays want easy women who are insecure, vulnerable, and they take advantage of them because, well, they're easy. But a real woman is gonna slap you away from hedonism. That's pretty terrifying for the adolescent males, right? The woman that wants you to be a monster, but an integrated one. Not a child bumbling idiot, because that's unattractive. A woman wants a monster who has that part of themselves integrated. So that means it's like the civilized monster. It's like the Edward Cullen in Twilight, right? He's a vampire, but he's civilized. He has it under control, and that's so attractive to women. Right? Why? It's because she wants a man that can protect her and her child, as well as keep that aggression under control. Protection, security, very attractive. So Peter Pan is not a monster. He's a monster in a sense to his own self. So Wendy is like, okay, well, why bother with this guy pretty much? And well, the reason also why Peter Pan stays the way he is because he looks to Captain Hook as his only adult figure, role model, and Captain Hook's a tyrant. Like, why would I ever want to grow up to be like that? He's running away from time, the crocodile, with the clock in his stomach, and he's really the same as Peter Pan, really, because when Peter Pan grows up, he's gonna wind up to be Captain Hook, where time takes a bite out of you. What that means, it's so profound, is that of course time becomes a looming judgmental figure and you're going to want to run away from it. And it's this retreat back to unconsciousness. People who are addicted, who are, consuming themselves with alcohol, drugs, pornography, food. It's this kind of regression back into this playful, kind of childlike way of living, like you were younger and you didn't have all these worries and responsibilities to kind of grapple and hold on to. And so now, when the realities of life, like, the crocodile, the predatory entity, kind of takes its bite out of you, which it will if you stay unconscious, right? It will. You kind of you notice it, and now you're partially awakened. And so what that means is it's harder for you, it's harder to go back into unconsciousness once you're awakened in some way, because you know that you're vulnerable. You know that you're finite. So you need more of the substance to numb, soothe, and distract you. You need more. You have to keep on consuming. Go back. But once you're awakened, you're paying attention to the sensations now. Oh no, what's the sensation? Because now you're in stress mode. A predatory entity took a bite out of you, whether you got an illness, someone around you died, whether you got fired, whether a relationship ended. It's like, now the stress of life has taken a massive chunk out of you. And what are you going to do now? Well, you can try and regress, but that's not going to work. And that was me. I was trying to, numb myself as much as I could, but it doesn't work. So then what you have to do is face, look towards the snakes, look towards yourself rather than shake your fist at God. Look towards the others who are like Abel, because you're Cain. Abel is the one that's making the right sacrifices, and you turn to them because you don't want to live in suffering anymore. And so Abel is going to help you. Those people, like that man that I was talking about, 500 days, nofap. I kind of laughed and shook my fist at him like a Cain would do, but he was the Abel of my eye. He was the shepherd that was going to lead me out of the desolate, foggy, murky, unsatisfying swamp I was inhabiting. And so that's the start. And you have to go a certain amount of days. You have to go a month without it to really bring the body and mind back to a homeostasis, calm state. And I noticed the relapse, what do you say, the side effects to my habit was this restlessness, irritability, this strong hypersensitivity to sexual cues. Ooh, it was rough. It was rough. The lack of meaning. And so then it's a good thing because now you have to live in that space of discomfort. It's like you're wandering in the desert, and who knows when the promised land is going to come, but it's going to come. You just have to keep on wandering through the discomfort. And then You will get there. You will get there. And that's where I'm going to leave you today on this podcast episode. Thank you, everyone, for being a listener of the show. I really appreciate you. If you haven't already, go over to Spotify. Just click on that rating, the star rating. Leave a star rating there for me if you really appreciate this show. It helps get the show more out there to others who are battling this sort of thing as well. And share this as well. I know you know somebody who is dealing with an addiction issue, but specifically pornography addiction. It is insanely common these days. And I feel like a lot of men are more open about it now more than ever. And I really love that. I really love that. You're part of this community now. Whatever addiction you're battling, someone else is battling. And so you can be a part of something better, be in alignment to that spirit, right? Be in alignment to something better. That faith is what you need. Rise above anxiety. I'll see you next time. My anxiety recovery program is available over at unpluganxiety.com. Included is the Releasing Trauma exercise. This is where you can walk through and release past trauma using an NLP-based audio recording by myself. That's at unpluganxiety.com. Go there to learn more.